dreamers who stopped by Dawn Dares to Dream today to see what we're all about. Well, let me give you a brief summary of what my purpose is here on my channel. My goal is to inspire and motivate adults to dream again. As we go through life and go through our different roles and responsibilities, we tend to put our dreams on the back burner. And I'm here to motivate and inspire you to pick those dreams back up and to pursue them again. And today we are going to make another brunch dish. We're going to make shrimp and grits. I'm so excited about the shrimp and grits. I love shrimp and grits. This isn't the typical way that I would make mine. I looked up a few recipes and I thought this recipe would be the best one for my dreamers. So let me tell you what goes in this dish. Of course, we're going to have our jumbo shrimp, as you can see here. We're also going to add in some bacon as well. And I like the thick bacon, not the thin. We are also going to have the last protein here, which is andouille sausage. Now this sausage is on the spicy side of smoked sausage. And we're gonna also have some orange pepper, red pepper, and green pepper. We're gonna add in some onion and some garlic. We're gonna use some lemon to help to marinate the shrimp and tenderize a little bit. We're gonna have some cheddar cheese, sharp cheddar, that we're gonna add into our grits. And then to spice it all up, we're gonna use some crushed red pepper, cayenne pepper, Worcestershire sauce. You know, I love my Himalayan rock salt. And to help make the gravy, we're gonna use some Better Than Bouillon, the chicken flavor. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, the recipe that I looked up called for using 2 pounds of shrimp. So all of the other ingredients were in a ratio to the 2 pounds of shrimp. I'm not using 2 pounds of shrimp. I'm using a ½ pound of shrimp. So I have a fourth and a fourth and a fourth, you understand, of the peppers and a half of an onion. And then I will use 2 garlic cloves because I do love my garlic. So to start, I have the water preparing to boil for the grits on the stove behind me. And now I'm actually going to take these shrimp that I have peeled but left the tail on for presentation. I typically don't do that, but I figured for this dish I wanted it to look as pretty as it could. So I left the tail on for presentation. We're gonna put them in this bowl and we're gonna put in some lemon juice and some cayenne pepper, and we're kind of marinate the shrimp a little bit in preparation for cooking them in the pan. I also have the bacon cooking up behind me in a separate pan as well, because we're going to use the bacon fat to cook the onions, garlic, and peppers in as well. I'm going to squeeze this lemon in here. And when I put the shrimp in here, I'm just gonna toss them around in the cayenne pepper and the lemon juice. So we're gonna prepare them for our pan, but we're not going to cook the shrimp until the end. After we've cooked the onions and the peppers and we have made the gravy is when we're gonna then put the shrimp into the gravy and cook them up. Now, if you don't want your shrimp and grits to be spicy, then of course you don't want to use cayenne pepper. It's extremely spicy. What you want to do is just use regular pepper, or maybe use white pepper. White pepper will give it an extra kick, but it won't be extremely spicy like what the cayenne pepper is going to do. So I'm just tossing the shrimp, as you can see, in the lemon juice and the cayenne pepper. And then we're gonna sit them aside next to the stove and just let them continue to marinate until it's their time to be put in the pan to cook. So the next thing we're gonna do, we are actually going to dice up the actual peppers and the onion, and then we're going to mince the garlic. And when the bacon has rendered all of its fat, we're gonna remove it from the pan and then add in the onions and the peppers and the garlic. Now today we are actually talking about vision. Of course, you know, it's September. In September, our whole major theme was vision. And today we're going to talk about how do we protect our vision? What does that look like, and what do we need to do to protect our vision? Because remember, once we have activated our vision, we've decided we're going to live our vision. We're going to use our vision to implement our purpose. We're going to use that plan. Remember, after we do that, our vision becomes rather public. And if you have been following me, when I talk about activating the law of attraction and having your the goal that you want to be manifested, you kind of want to keep those things to yourself. You don't want to share them with the world or too many people, because you don't want the negativity to be or to have any influence over what you're trying to manifest. But with our vision, it's a little different, because the vision is meant to inspire and to motivate, or to encourage, or to bless people on a large scale. So people are going to know about it, because we're going to talk about it, because we need to know, they need to know what it is that we are doing that is going to be helpful for them in their lives. So we have to talk about it. But even in talking about it and sharing it with others, because that's the mandate of a vision, you still need to protect it in a sense. And what I mean by protect it is you're really protecting yourself and protecting your mind set and protecting your thoughts and how you feel about what it is that you're doing that's going to have an impact on this earth. So when I say protect the vision, I'm saying protect yourself. And be careful who you are around and you're sharing your intimate thoughts with. Now, the vision isn't an intimate thought. It's something you're going to share on a large scale. But the different nuances to your vision are something that you are only going to share in intimate settings. Like, for instance, with your advisors. Your advisors are people who are going to be privy to more detail of what you're doing and how you're doing it, why you want to do it. And as you go along your journey and your path, your advisors are going to change. You're going to keep some, lose some. It's going to be a mixture, because your advisors are your supporters. They are the people who are with you along your way, who are supportive of you and encouraging you, and there to help you implement your vision. They're there to help you live your purpose on a larger scale. So now we have our green, orange, and red peppers chopped up here. And to be honest, I might cut half of that and use it, and not use all of it in the one dish, because again, my dish is for a quarter of what the dish called for that I am using. The recipe that I'm using called for maybe a quarter of the amount. So we're gonna go ahead and get these onions going. And speaking of that, I'll probably leave that out and just do this amount of the onion. Because we do not want the veggies to overwhelm the dish. We want them to complement the protein and not take over the protein. Now I smell that bacon behind me. It's doing rather good. I can smell it. Because this clove is so little, I'm going to do 3 cloves of garlic and just go ahead and mince that up for this dish. So we're going to smash this. And I still have the garlic peeler, but I just feel like it's good to be used when I have a large amount of garlic that I'm going to be mincing. When I'm only doing a couple cloves, this is actually fine to just go ahead and smash it. That bacon is, you know how I tell you when you smell the aroma of whatever it is you're cooking, it's very close to being done. But what's happening behind me, it is actually, it needs to be turned. So let me chop this garlic quickly here, and I'm going to go ahead and flip the bacon. And the water is boiling behind me also for our grits. So I want to make sure I just go ahead and add the grits into the water. Now I'm doing enough grits for the 1 to 2 servings, the first amount. So I'm doing a 1/4 cup of the grits and a cup of water. Now I probably did a little bit more than 1/4 cup, so I added a little bit more than 1 cup of water. So that's good. That's minced up quite nicely there. So now we have the garlic. And let me go ahead and get back here and tend to the items on the stove here. So now we're gonna get this andouille sausage over here, and I am going to slice this to prepare it for when it's time to cook it. Now, I'm doing it on a diagonal because remember, we eat with our eyes as well as our stomachs, as well as our palates. So I like to make sure that the food is pleasing to the eye. And typically when we eat smoked sausage, it's always sliced on a diagonal. So that's what I mean by on a diagonal. So just slice it on a diagonal. And I'm not using the whole sausage. I just use probably less than 1/4 of it to put into the dish. So we're gonna set this aside for when we are ready to add it to the pan as well. So let's go ahead and shred up the sharp cheddar. Because at the end, when we are ready for everything to combine, we are going to add in the cheddar to the grits before we top it with the shrimp, the andouille sausage, the veggies, and the gravy. We're gonna add in some cheddar, and it's gonna help to flavor our grits and give our grits some color. We're using the bleached white grits for this dish. Now, I would prefer to use the yellow grits, the grits that have not been bleached. You can find them at Whole Foods, and they're yellow in color, and they are awesome, and they're nice and creamy. But I didn't go to I didn't go to Whole Foods, so I have to use the instant grits that I have. But using the grits that take a little bit longer to prepare is really special for this dish. It helps to elevate the dish when you use more of a stone grits versus the instant kind. So now I'm going to take the veggies and put them in the pan, but I'm going to reserve the garlic for the end. The bacon is done, so all of the bacon fat has been rendered, so I'm going to go ahead and saute up the peppers and the onions in the bacon fat. So after the onions and the peppers sweat a little bit, I'm gonna add in the garlic. I'm adding in the garlic later because I don't want my garlic to burn. I want my garlic to have its wonderful flavor and aroma that garlic is intended to. But when you cook it too long, you have a tendency to burn it. So when you're cooking so many onions and peppers together, it's good to reserve the garlic more towards the end to add it in. And once I add in the garlic and saute that, we're going to just then take all of that out of the pan, and I'm going to cook up the andouille sausage. I am also simultaneously going to begin to make my roux for the gravy for the shrimp and grits as well. And I'm telling you, in about 10-15 minutes, we're going to be all done. It's time to go ahead and add in the garlic. So I'm just going to stick it over here on the knife, and I'm going to put it in the pan. So what we're going to do now, we're going to get the roux going. So I'm going to go ahead and get the butter out of the fridge, and I have the flour on the table. Now, when you're making a roux, you want to do equal parts the fat versus the flour. So I'm doing butter, so I want to do equal parts. I believe I'm doing 2/4 of butter, 2 tablespoons of butter is what I'm doing. So I want to do 2 tablespoons of flour, and I'm going to just cook that down until it turns a little like brown, golden brown, caramel color. And then I'm ready to add in my water, and then my chicken bouillon, which I use is better than bouillon. I have removed the onions and peppers and set them aside. So what I'm going to do now is take the andouille sausage and place it in the pan so that it can begin to cook. I also have the butter and the flour in the pan, in a separate pan, so that I can begin making my roux. And now what I'm gonna do, I believe I'm done doing everything I'm gonna do here on the island. I'm gonna bring you guys a little bit closer so that you can see what's happening here on the stove, and especially how to make the roux. Because I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and we didn't make roux. We just kind of made our gravy by just adding flour to a liquid. And I had never heard of making a roux. You kind of do it on a low heat, and you're cooking the flour as it's browning. You're just cooking it and watching it brown. And the key to the roux is you want to cook it as dark as you want your gravy to be for your dish. And in our case, we are preparing shrimp and grits. So we do not need the roux to be extra dark. But if you were doing like a dark etouffee or like a gumbo, maybe you would want it to cook to like a coffee chocolate brown. But we're doing an easier roux where we're only doing it until like a little light brown or caramel. That is an easier roux to make, because the key to a roux is you don't want to burn it. So as you're cooking it, you're stirring it and you're stirring it and you're stirring it, and you're not adding any water or anything like that. You are literally just cooking the flour, but you don't want to burn the flour, so you have to have enough fat versus flour. The ratio has to be just right, or you burn it, especially if you're not watching it. But I'm going to stand here and stir my flour and butter until I achieve the color that it is that I'm looking for. So we have the andouille sausage here in the pan. Now remember, andouille sausage is a spicy smoked sausage. So if you do not desire for your shrimp and grits to be too spicy, then you want to use regular smoked sausage. Because remember, we've added the cayenne pepper in as well. And I have crushed red pepper that I'm going to put in the gravy once that gets going. So that's going to spice it up as well. So if you aren't into the whole spice thing, like I said, use regular salt and pepper. And then use smoked sausage instead of andouille sausage. So I want you to see what's going on in here in the pan. So this is me making my roux. Right now it's pretty blonde, and that's from the butter and the flour. So I'm going to keep cooking it and stirring it until it gets to, like I said, the caramel brown that I'm looking for, light brown color. Now if you want to cheat, I will show you how to cheat. I have in my cabinet, it's the Gravy Master or something that it's called. And what it does is it colors your gravy. So if you don't want to wait and cook your flour down, then you can use that. So now I'm going to season this with salt and pepper. Because remember, this is just flour and butter. And I want to make sure that it's seasoned for my gravy. And what you do is you just keep going, just keep stirring. See the color's changing a little bit? It's not as blonde as it once was. We're going to flip this sausage here. And once we flip it and it cooks on the side, the sausage is done. And I'm going to remove it from the pan and set it aside until I'm ready to combine all the ingredients with the gravy. And remember, we are putting in the shrimp at the end because it takes all of 5 seconds for shrimp to cook. You don't want to overcook your shrimp. You want your shrimp nice and tender and juicy. So now the grits are pretty much done. I'm going to add in some milk to help make them a little creamy. And again, you know, I don't have milk. I actually have half and half, or it's heavy whipping cream, whichever. I'm going to add it into the grits. So I'm going to take this heavy whipping cream and I'm going to add like a couple drops, maybe a couple tablespoons of this into the grits. And the whole purpose of this is the grits are kind of gritty or whatever. You want to make them creamy in texture. And adding a dairy product is how you're going to do that. And you only want to add a touch. You're not trying to completely change the texture. You just want to make them a little creamy. So check out the color. See how the color is coming along? It's doing really well. It's not as blonde as it once was. It's turning a little more brown. It's heading towards that caramel color that we're looking for. So now I'm going to turn the heat down. I had it more on a medium high, and now I'm putting it on a medium low because I don't want to burn my roux. Like I said, it's called Gravy Master. So if you want to use this, this will color your roux. It says browning and caramelizing and seasoning. So you could use this. I'm not going to use this because I want to do my roux thing, but this is what you can do to cut the time. As you can see, the grits are now creamier. And I didn't learn to put milk in my grits like this until I moved here to Texas. Wait, I didn't do this back home, but it gives it a different kind of creamy texture, and they're really good like this. But I don't do it often. I only do it when I'm making grits for a special reason. So now I'm going to turn the fire or the heat down completely or off for the grits because they're done. Long, you see that? And we are not cooking that much of a dish, like the amount is rather small. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't put in too much flour to oil ratio, because then I'll have to put in too much water so that it's not too thick, because the roux is going to make your gravy really, really thick. So you want to make sure that you're doing the appropriate amount, because you could end up with a very, very thick gravy and have to continue to add water. And when you add that water, the flavoring may go. So roux are really, really tricky. You have to understand the ratio of the fat to the flour, number one, because it has to be exactly the same. Then you have to make sure that when you add in your water, you aren't adding in so much that it's diluting what you're doing and your gravy will be too thin. So this color is good enough for me. Remember I told you I was looking for more of a caramel color? I'm good with this. And I am going to add in some water. I'm going to do a half a cup of water to start, because I didn't really measure, you know what I mean? So I'm going to do a half a cup of water to start. And then I'm going to add in the Better Than bouillon. Now you can use a regular bouillon cube in here, or you could use chicken stock. I don't have chicken stock. I haven't bought that, the pre-prepared, like in the box or in the can. So I needed to make my stock. So I like using Better Than bouillon with water, or you can use regular bouillon cubes with water as well. But this is very, very tasty. If you have never heard of it, you should buy it. They have a veggie kind, they have beef, they have chicken. This is some good stuff here. Because remember, we want this to boil and thicken. Yeah, it tastes pretty good. Tastes pretty good. So see how it's coming together very well, like gravy? So that's the whole point to a roux. I hadn't always understood it, but that's the whole point to a roux. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the peppers and onions that I cooked earlier. I'm then going to add in the andouille sausage. And then we're going to take the shrimp mixture and add that in as well. And soon we will have our prepared shrimp and grits. And close to when this is absolutely done, I'm going to add in the cheddar cheese to the grits so that they can get yellow in color. And then they'll also have the cheddar flavor. And I'm using sharp cheddar cheese. If you don't like sharp cheddar cheese and you want to use a white cheese, or you want to do a milder cheese, you're definitely welcome to do so. We're almost done. I'll show you. See how thickened up that became? So we're just going to put the lid on that and let that cook. Grits are done, and we're going to go back to the counter because we have a little more that I would like to discuss about protecting your vision. Now, the shrimp are cooking in the gravy with the onions, peppers, and garlic. The grits are finished. I added in the sharp cheddar cheese, but I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about how to protect your vision. When I talk about protecting your vision, I also want to relay the message that we're going to have a support staff, we're going to have advisors, but we also have to remember that they need to be able to work well together and not tearing down your organization while they're supposed to be building it up. So be cognizant of the personality types that you're hiring for the different roles. There are different personalities work well with other personalities, and different personalities have like a calling or a focus that works for them, that is going to complement what you're doing. So use personality tests when you are hiring, once you get to that point, your organization is that massive, you want to kind of get an understanding for who people are before you bring them in, because your organization has a certain purpose and a certain flow to it, and you want to make sure that anyone that you're bringing in is going to come in and work well with that and not come in tearing it down. Now, you do want new blood who have new thoughts and they think in a different way, but they also need to be team players and know how to work together. And everyone isn't a team player. It's just the way that it is. So you just have to be cognizant of who you're adding to your team. So as you grow, the way you're going to interview and hire, or who you're going to have intern in your organization, is going to change and it's going to morph. But in the beginning, you're probably pretty hands-on. So make sure that you are hiring the appropriate individuals for your organization, because otherwise you could be out here living and implementing your vision and your plan, but behind the scenes, your organization is tearing down and falling apart. We have to remember that even though we are the creative beings for our organization, we have to pay attention to the business side as well, because this is our vision. And even though you may know and believe that you have people around you who know, love, and care about you and they're ready to push things forward, that's great. It's easier to decipher that in the beginning, but once you begin to grow, you want to make sure that you are paying attention to the hiring process and what's going on, and you have a methodology for doing so, and maybe you have a person who that's their expertise, because you just can't assume because someone has a certain skill set that they are going to come in and complement your vision, your plan. Well, guys, we're all done. Check out this bowl of shrimp and grits. I tasted it. It's spicy. It's spicy. So if you don't like spicy, please, please, please do not do the andouille sausage and then couple it with the cayenne pepper. I didn't even use the crushed red pepper flakes. So this is a really good dish. I can't wait to dig in. Shrimp and grits, shrimp and grits. So we have our second dish in our brunch series, and I promise you I'm going to continue to bring you brunch items as well, because I told you breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. Now, if you like this video, give me thumbs up. Also, remember, my face is going to be up here in a circle. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And there's a share button down here. Share with an arrow. Click on that and you can share this to your social media platforms, so your social media family and friends can see what you're doing and get motivated and inspired to dream again as well. And don't forget to go to my website, because the key to activating the law of attraction action guide is available. There are 10 tips there that will help you figure out what has been blocking you from activating law of attraction in a positive manner. And it's also just 10 personal development tips that will help you on your personal development journey. So I thank you for hanging out with me today, and I can't wait to dig into this because I am actually hungry. I'm about to eat this right now. Have a great day, dreamers.